Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we're taking this level 1 Barbarian Woodsman into the ruins directly. No messing around in Goblin Caves, we're going to see if we can survive and make it out alive in the ruins. So this permadeath journey is on Barbarian using Rage, Savage Roar, and then Crush. And yes, he's a woodsman looking for a more peaceful life in the countryside. He enters these ruins in hope of finding treasure to buy some land. His dream is to give up the sword and shield, as he longs for a peaceful life in the woods, away from all the chaos and corruption. Unease amongst the war bands is at an all-time high, and the call to war could be as little as days away, as humans, elves, orcs, goblins keep pushing their people and their boundaries to its limits in an effort to gain weapons, money, and superiority over one race or the other. This barbarian was part of a war band in the past and knows his way around a few weapons. However, in order to thrive as a barbarian, you must spread bloodshed and fear in order to thrive and conquer those in front of you. This barbarian's uninterested in that. His goal is to buy some land from a human village and settle there peacefully in the woods without anyone ever knowing he even left. But to do that, we need to make some gold. And luckily, this barbarian spawned in an amazing spot to find really good treasure, as he needs 400 gold total. So if we escape with 400 gold, we will be free to do as we wish and buy the land from the human villagers. And so far, he's off to a pretty good start. Finding a royal coffin early on from that spawn is hugely beneficial. Go a long way to contributing to that 400 gold we need to bank to buy our land and our freedom. Continuing to loot everything he can, this spot is incredibly good for loot. We did find a Viking sword, which will go a long way to helping us catch any of the fast-moving players in this ruins dungeon. Breaking through here, we hope this one's not locked and we get lucky. So hopefully another pile of gold to add to our collection. Some more blues, which is quite nice. Would have much rather preferred to get a hatchet. Something this barbarian's very familiar with, as he was in charge of cutting most of the logs for the Viking ships that they used on their raiding parties. So he knows his way around an axe, but Viking sword, tried and true weapon of any raiding group when it comes time to land on the beaches. So we're going to keep looting here, doing everything we can. Viking sword is still pretty amazing on the barbarian right now. The only issue, and what this barbarian's going to learn as well, eventually, the reach is kind of a letdown. Both barbarian weapons that I'm using right now, battle axe apparently had its reach increased a little bit. I don't really notice it all that much. Maybe on the second swing a little bit, like minor amounts. It still feels pretty horrible to PvE with, and you have to be literally nose to nose with people to land any hits with this thing. Basically, if you're fighting a player that knows how to play Dark and Darker, chances are you shouldn't really be hitting them with the battle axe. If they have any other class, like a ranger, rogue, fighter even, most other classes can easily juke in and out of your reach as you waste time swinging. Your movement speed's delayed because of the swing. It's tough. So that Viking sword will hopefully come up huge as we try to survive and make it out of here with all the loot we've already collected. This is a decent little pile. Decent little stockpile considering we're barely into this raid. What's worrying me is the fact that very few other players have actually died, and I've already taken a little bit of damage with absolutely no meds to recover it with. So, it will be tricky. Like I said, dealing with PvE on Barbarian, it's okay. I should be using fear a little more, but I don't like using fear as everyone can hear it. And even if you're being quiet in ruins, you still can be attacked by possessed dogs, which is an exceptionally horrifying sight if you're not expecting it. Direwolves are quite common in the land populated by barbarians in the north and northeast. However, this barbarian has never seen one move quite like this. This barbarian's beginning to understand that this is no place for the living, especially a lone barbarian searching for loot and treasure under the moonlight. I'm gonna break through here And randomly there's a spider at our feet. And also, I don't like how it takes 2 hits to break some of those things down. Even some doors are taking 2 hits with Crush activated, which I find a little strange. I'd prefer if some of them were just 1. Maybe it's just something on Rune's map that I was never really aware of. Still feel like you have to be incredibly close to land consistent headshots with the battle axe. It is, truthfully, probably one of the worst starting weapons in the game. I know Magic Staff's pretty bad on Wizard, but it's not really a weapon for them. And for these dogs, Fear doesn't really do a whole lot of good. It just means you can't hit them because they run away so fast. We take a boatload of damage, and now we're also getting pushed by Skeleton Mage. Not a fun scenario, as we're now half HP, with absolutely no way to recover it, unless we find a heal shrine, or rest for a long, extended period of time. And yes, even though the health pool is nice, resting for what seems like an eternity is not exciting for me to do. That's why I always struggle on Barbarian, especially getting started. I just want to continue on with my journey. Every once in a while on fighter class or any other class, stopping for like 20 HP or whatever it is, yeah, it makes sense. When you're stopping for a Barbarian, which is like 130, sometimes if you have the toughness perk on, it's like 150. If you have any strength at all, you're resting for a long time. So, yeah, solo it's a little bit trickier, so we're going to have to do a little quick rest here. We do hear a few players close by. So, we need to be careful. We're hopefully tucked good enough that no one can see us as we wait out this slow process of getting our HP back. However, while waiting, we hear a few arrow shots very close by. Which means those rangers or whoever it is likely targeting a player right next door to us. And sure enough, here he comes. Luckily for our woodsman, this guy didn't use his torch for all that long, so we're still kind of well hidden. I don't think he's going to expect a check here, and we just have to make the decision whether or not we want to fight this one or sit this one out. Tricky part is you have to be literally touching the rogue's nose in order to hit him by the time your swing carries through. So we need an absolute perfect moment if we do want to try to kill this guy who appears to be wearing absolutely no clothing. We're just checking, make sure everything's still there, and essentially deciding whether or not we want to jump on this or not. It appears he's struggling with the Spiffer mummies, and he's now got himself in a pretty vulnerable situation considering he has to come this way for zone, and there's no real other way out of that spot, at least as far as I know, quickly. We may be able to corner him here. We hear him kill one more spider and decide maybe it's our time to shine. Using our throwing axes, we absolutely whiff one, and he notices we're here. So we need to fight this guy. We launch this bag of feathers into the air with our second hit of that battle axe, as those skeleton bones must have been incredibly dry to send that guy flying like that. Luckily enough, he did have some nice stuff. Didn't even really have time to look at that pendant, but we'll see it in the final end screen. He had some treasure, which is exactly what we want. We could get fairly close to 300 or 400 gold from this one run if we are successful and can make it out alive. So I thank that rogue for his donation, and we continue on. See a health shrine over there. I definitely need to be grabbing health shrine if I want to really compete with any type of PvP. I also need to be using that Viking sword a little more. Luckily enough, health shrine is here and it is ready to be taken. So that's going to be very helpful. And just as we're grabbing it, we hear guys on the other side of this door, which means we need to get a little bit of space. I'm playing incredibly passive, a little bit slower than what I usually play. Like I'm not hunting for engagements. And I'll explain some of my reasoning or how I came to this playstyle at the end. But right now, we just need to escape. I am really interested to see how much gold we made from one run. Basically, one royal coffin and the route that we spawned from. Got us a full inventory of stuff. Sure, we killed a rogue. He had a few items as well. But if we were breaking more and killing more mobs, we were playing a little bit braver. We could have a full inventory pretty quickly. Luckily we hear a portal and it's right behind us. That means we're going to get a successful escape. And like I said, I am very curious to see how much money we make. We also noticed there's a fighter in the top right hand corner. I'm getting some kills. We see another guy with a similar name. We're just curious if these guys that are attacking these mobs over here are somewhat vulnerable. It's got about 6 or 7 skellies on it, looks like. One of them being a red skelly. He doesn't have much choice but to run. Waiting on the right moment to toss this fire lantern or oil lantern. Hoping we can catch him as he's trying to come back to zone. See him rounding the corner and we hope he's taking a step just down those staircases, but luckily, well, unlucky for me, luckily for him, he escapes the fire damage. Taking a quick check to see how he did. This guy was basically there for the taking. We got a nice cape, a few other items, a couple all attributes, which is very, very nice no matter what class you are. We're good on literally everything. And this guy, wow. Poor fellow is being absolutely hunted by all these mobs. Just spectating this guy a little bit further, and he does eventually find his way a little bit further into zone than I would have liked on that type of HP. But he did get a bandage off. He was checking likely for health shrine. Now he's going to try this one more time, as he hopes and prays he can make it out of here alive. Sure enough he does. But good for him. And we get to go see how much loot we actually made it home with. Looks to be a lot of good valuables considering we have some purples and blues. We can sell all the crafting materials as we're likely to never need them or be able to use them. A lot of stuff isn't really tailored for Barbarian anyway. There's longbows, falchions of honor and all that stuff. But nothing really too crazy for Barbarian, at least from what I saw. That doesn't matter as we're still making a pile of cash here. Almost the 300 gold, but we will need to buy some meds. I'm gonna do a quick check to see if there's anything of real, if there's anything really, really valuable that could maybe help us escape this raid or next. Take a quick look. And this thing has 15 magic resist, 3 agility, and that agility is extremely helpful on the Barbarian class. Getting you to that threshold of where things stop subtracting, meaning you no longer have like negative action speed or negative item interaction or random interaction speed. Having some agility, or at least 15 agility, is so hugely important. And then anytime after that, that increase how fast that, well, in this case, battle axe or Viking sword swings, but in the most part, it's how fast now the maul, quarterstaff, or horseman's axe can swing. Bermuda helm got some changes, but I still don't think they're much better than the Viking helm. Viking helm gives you agility, which is exactly what you need. And then you have decent armor rating and okay magic resist anyway. So I don't see the point of ever running any fighter helmets, because fighter helmets are pretty trash, not going to lie. We're going to do a quick look around, quick scan, see if we find any pants. Pants would be a really nice upgrade. And sure enough, we do actually find something of value hidden in here. That one's not bad either. But plus 2 agi on green trousers and then plus 3 additional physical damage for 50 gold sounds like a pretty nice upgrade. That should get us very close. Like 17, now we have 17 agility. As our first run ends, we're going to buy some bandages and then continue on, banking some of this money as we need to get to 400 gold in order to fill his dream of being a true full-blown woodsman. Log cabin, the whole 9 yards. He wants to live out there away from this world in all its ridiculousness. That is his dream. He'll do everything he can to make it happen, even if it means picking up the sword one last time. Speaking of that sword, we're going to do a quick check. Quick check just to see how much we're smashing for. 61 damage. probably smarter just to use Viking Sword for just about everything. It's crazy to me it takes 3 hits with a starting battle axe to kill most mobs. If they're a normal skeleton, it takes 3 hits to the head. And that to me seems a little crazy considering how slow and vulnerable you are using that battle axe starting out. I seriously believe it has one of the worst starting classes you can play. Really horrible movement speed, with okay damage. If you can hit your target, as Achilles Strike now is no longer as strong or effective. Reckless Attack can be easily missed, swung into a wall just like Achilles, and do absolutely nothing for you. Not to mention Achilles Strike now, that absolutely be certain you're going to hit that strike, or it does little to nothing for you as well. A lot of people were really upset with Achilles Strike, and I do understand it. However, I feel like right now, Barbarian, and we'll discuss this in the future, Barbarian is pretty bang average in my opinion. However, I only play solo. So just about every other class in the game has some type of range capability, or range poke they can do, or simply outrunning you. And sure, rage does increase your movement speed for a short time. It does not deal free damage with a trap or kite with a hydra. There's a lot of challenges to playing Barbarian right now, and challenges that I didn't even know were there. Sure, Runes is a very difficult map, and I understand, but a lot of times I was very much struggling attempting to make this battle axe work. That being said, we did make it through the first raid and made a pile of money. I think most of that can be attributed to simple fact we had a good spawn. See a couple guys going out, looks like another warlock. Warlocks are exceptionally scary early on, even if you get within striking distance of this battle axe. You're taking a blow of corruption to the face, meaning if you're full HP, sure, it might just half health you, but if you're already hurting a little bit, that blow of corruption will put you on your ass so freaking quickly. They can kite you and kite you and kite you, and then when going gets rough, just turn blow of corruption magic staff you to the face. It is incredibly powerful, and I'm seeing a lot more of it. There is a way to get up here, I'm just doing it a little bit improperly. I feel like this is a fairly common cockatrice fighting spot now. I've seen a few people doing this. However, I've never actually killed that giant death chicken. And I think it's mainly because I just don't want to lose a bunch of gear to PvE. And for the most part, if you're going in here solo, the last thing you want to be doing is going in fighting bosses that you're not familiar with, even though, yes, I need to learn how these happen, how things work. I feel like I need to start trying to farm more mini-bosses across all the maps I play, as they're so freaking valuable. We just found leather gloves, like, fairly nice leather gloves. Even just blanket, bare bones leather gloves with 1 agi are still pretty nice to have on the Barbarian class, because you sorely lack agility. Once again, we're getting some decent loot from this raid. I see a couple people dying to the same kind of group, which scares me quite a bit. I see a longsword, and before that, Curse of Pain. We have a warlock using, hopefully he's not using blow of corruption, because I'm pretty sure blow of corruption would almost destroy me in 1 hit. And it's like, doesn't even need to be well geared. Blow of corruption will absolutely chunk your HP bar, while they then switch and run away, so that you never can touch them again. It is a warlock epidemic here in these runes. This barbarian doesn't want any part of it. He wants to go home peacefully and get back to what he loves. And we might just get there. Our loot is looking pretty okay. We found some really nice stuff in that rail coffin before, and this time we're just getting a whole bunch of barrels, which is helping our cause. That little room down there looks like an interesting room to loot. However, I'm pretty sure it aggroes a whole bunch of noisy stuff that I'm not that interested in. Inching our way along, we see more people dying, which isn't a bad thing, as I'm really curious if we're going to have 400 gold after 2 ruin runs. One was probably exceptionally lucky. If we can get a lucky here again, we will have our 400 gold and our land and our freedom. This guy's already counting his eggs before they hatch, but he can already see the surprised faces of people of that town as he acquires land nearby. Barbarians and humans have begun mingling a little more. It's not too shocking. But the fact remains, 400 gold is a lot of gold to most people. In fact, his warband has raided villages and towns with far less than that. The fact that he was able to uncover all this treasure and loot in a very brief amount of time is quite promising. Also quite addicting. He knows this is not the life for him, searching these ruins endlessly, looking for that next big treasure, time and time again. Grabbing the protection shrine will be essential. We are going to get into a fight anytime soon. I do think, sadly, duration feels a little shorter than what I remember. Rugged boots. Rugged boots are also extremely nice. We might have to switch them for our Lightfoot. We're at 30%, 37 magic resist because of that pendant. We go to 34 and 29. So the, +3 movement speed? I'm not sure it's really worth it, considering we get a healthy amount of magic resistance. There is something to be said here, though. That protection shrine is definitely bumping those numbers up. Even still, 27 if it's 10% for the shrine, 27% mitigation on magical damage already. I think we are literally just starting to build this class out. Quite exceptional. Getting to 27% on the fighter class is a whole different ballgame. It is so difficult piecing together certain gears and then basically being forced to drop Slayer, which is your only damage increase in damage of any kind on the fighter class, unless you consider attack speed being a DPS or a damage increase. And once again, we do find our way into the middle of this map, which is quite interesting. There's almost always players that venture through these pillars and this room. It's a really nice spot considering there's a health shrine on one end, a speed shrine in the middle, some decent loot underneath. Had a rogue just glance by. At least I thought it was a rogue, and then that arrow straight up scared me. That arrow absolutely terrified me as I thought, oh yeah, I'll just grab this speed shrine. That rogue's coming nowhere near me. Now we're kind of booking it. A little bit of panic. I hear cockatrices close by, so I have to go to the left. And I do not want to aggro a whole bunch of mobs, considering I just can't clear mobs that quickly, even with fear. Fear delays or keeps you safe, yes. Does also reduce damage from other players, but it doesn't really help you kill them that much quicker. 3 hits with the battle axe takes a long time. 4 hits with the Viking sword, whatever it may be, takes a long time. You have to get super close. You have to play extremely risky, and it's also super loud. So fighting PvE on Barb early on can be a bit tedious. We hear a portal, and I'm thinking to myself, here we go, perfect. We're going to get another decent raid. Just maybe we'll be able to make it out of here alive with some solid loot we can sell and then use to fund the land in the woods. But the skeleton's in the way, and I make a critical error. Backing up just far enough for these dogs to aggro onto me, and these dogs are certainly possessed. Trying to fear them away might give me just enough time to grab this portal safely, but no, we're way too fast. We take a pile of damage. Skeleton archer shooting us. We have an archer on the other side of the door, and as the darkness begins to close in, this barbarian's starting to see his dream slowly fade. This is not the situation we expected to be in going for our final portal. Sure enough, guy at the door holding us into that chamber finally does us in. I don't even think they're going to loot us, as it's kind of chaotic in there. There's literally mobs everywhere. I had no sweet clue. But one thing that is surprising, just look at some of this loot that's in a pre-level 15 lobby. I mean, yeah, most of that stuff's probably attainable through the shop. But +2 all attributes, I mean, +1 all attributes, 33 will. Can't scroll up to see what his strength is, but that guy right there alone would have just one-tapped me. Some other guys out here rocking some pretty bare minimum stuff. Probably some stuff he found. But overall, it is a little surprising just how quickly they reverted back to some of the old gear. It was earlier in this day I found a rogue with like plus 22 weapon damage. It just seems like it always goes a little bit too far. Like, all attributes isn't that bad if you have a couple of them. It's exciting to find. It does make for some interesting weapon options and choices and builds. But then it just gets a little too crazy. Like, once you start getting plus 2 on everything, it's like, okay, now we have like 40 strength, whatever, rangers running around. It just seems so silly. So that, sadly, is the end of that permadeath for the woodsman. But I did want to show you why, like I said earlier at the beginning, it's probably the most difficult one I've ever done. Like, you're seeing this guy. Look at him. Gets hit by one trap, gets hit by a warlock, and finally dies to an arrow in combination with the hunting trap. I feel like right now, and yes, I'm going into runes, this is extremely difficult if you're a solo player. I feel like going into runes as a solo player on a melee class is probably one of the worst experiences you could have. And that's exactly what I tried to do for this run, and it was difficult. I had to try this one more than pretty much any other permadeath I've done. Just silly stuff would happen like this. My first hit just didn't connect. My second hit doesn't connect. And now I'm fighting the rogue instead of the last hit being delivered on the warlock. He can hit us with his Curse of Pain and sprint away faster than we can move. And if we do pull our fist out, that staff does 26 damage, or it's a 26 damage staff. And normally they have blow corruption, so you just get absolutely smacked early on. So, melee classes right now feel extremely difficult. Even on my fighter class, if I want to make money, I have to go Goblin Caves. It doesn't seem to be a real hope of playing any type of duo or solo trio setup as a fighter or as a barbarian. Both those classes shine in teams with buff ball, and that's it. The other experience, like this right here, for some reason that door didn't break, it must be reinforced or something. Most other times, I tried either barbarian, I did try some fighter again. Solo v anything is so freaking difficult. Everybody's so much better at the game. Squads are very good, they're well set up. They have ranger cleric, ranger warlock, fighter cleric, etc, etc. You start throwing in some plus 3 weapon damage or plus 2 all attributes to that setup, you have to go through a lot of health, you're dealing a lot of damage, and even a bard can have pretty decent magic resistance and damage reduction across the board. So, I'm starting to get that weird feeling again, like we're back to where we were before, and playing solo v anything is pretty much dead, if you want to stick with a melee character. Once again, fighting a wizard, fighting a warlock, I can hear the wizard run by me, and I hear him, but simply can't rotate fast enough to get away from any of the damage he's dealing. The wizards aren't the strongest class right now either, but I feel like the meta is seriously range of some sort, and lots of it. Everyone's dealing damage from a distance, and I can't remember the last time I've had a decent 1v1 melee fight in a long time. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts. How are you making out on fighter class? How are you making out on barbarian? And where are you guys playing if you're playing solo? Just quickly looking at some of this cleric's gear for 315 lobby. Once again, pretty freaking nice. That's not a big deal, I don't care. Just think it's pretty wild how quickly you can get geared up if you're either in a group or you're stomping people in goblin caves. If you have a bit of time, you can be fairly well geared. Meaning, doing a permadeath run like this is pretty difficult, even still, even with the 1 to 15 queue. So look, thank you all, I appreciate you all for watching. I wish we could have got this woodsman to his land, got him the 400 coins, and sent him on his way. I tried really hard, and the best I could do is this permadeath story. So cheers. I'll see you guys all next time.